Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber, and thanks for joining us here on the program where we cover the most interesting live trials and legal stories in the news today. You're joining us on a very important day. I want to break down what we have in store for you because we are about to jump live in day 3 of an absolutely explosive trial, that of a former cheerleader accused of killing her newborn. And that's just the start of what's really an emotional day that we're going to recap for you as we wait to go live. Joining me right now is attorney Terri. Terri, I don't even know what to think after this video. In general, do you think this helped the defense, or did it hurt the prosecution? Did it help the prosecution? Did it hurt the defense? What do you think?
I think so far it's relatively neutral. So he is interrogating her. He's a little bit too friendly, but I don't think he's abusing his position. And, you know, she's kind of quiet. She seems to be answering truthfully. So right now I would put it about 50-50.
But in terms of the whole tape that we saw from yesterday, do you think it was a good day for the defense or a bad day?
Well, as far as the whole tape was concerned, it was a great day for the defense. She was extremely sympathetic. When she's being interviewed by the police officer here, the very first thing she asked was, am I going to be arrested? And she asked that question a few times. And I think she was very concerned about what was going to happen. I don't think she even realized that what she did might be questioned. And when her parents came in the room, there wasn't a dry eye as far as I'm concerned, because she just kept saying things like, Mommy, will you hold my hand, and are you still going to love me? So that definitely helped the defense.
Okay, let's play more of the tape because there's a lot to go through and we want to get through as much of it as we can before we go live. Here's some more from yesterday. Okay, so we're about to jump back live in court. Before we do, Terri, I want to get your perspective on this. Based upon everything that we heard in the interrogation tape, and she is charged with a litany of crimes, what has she done? What has she admitted to that's illegal?
So far, if in fact she can prove that the baby was stillborn, she's not done anything illegal. I mean, if she, you know, the last charge was handling or abusing the corpse, if they can show that what she did with the baby abused the reasonable sensibilities of a person, then that's illegal. But so far, she had a stillborn. She hasn't done anything illegal here.
All right, we're waiting to see that second interrogation tape, but we just got word that's going to be played later on in the day. They're going to call different witnesses right now out of order. It's for scheduling purposes. Sometimes it's just the way it works. Right now, a new witness is on the stand, but we're going to hear that second interrogation tape later on in the day. Let's go live and we'll hear who this witness is and what role she plays in this case. Okay, so let's just break down what we expect to hear. Joining me on set is criminal defense attorney Angela Dorn. Angela, as we wait to hear from this forensic pathologist, and she was qualifying herself, what are you looking out for?
So I'm looking out for basically how experienced is she as a pathologist? And is she telling us the right things in terms of what she's looking for? Ultimately, she's trying to determine the cause of death. Will that be possible? And do I believe her when she talks about the evidence that she's discussing?
Terri, from what we know so far, the idea of a cause of death is just homicidal violence. There seems to be this lack of answers. And how do you think that's going to impact the case? Because there's so much we don't know about what happened to baby Annabelle.
I think the less information they can decipher from the baby's body is more helpful to the defense, because they're not going to be able to show, if there's not enough forensic evidence, that there was any violent impact to the child. So it sounds like so far it wasn't much evidence there. And if that's the case, then it's going to help Richardson.
All right, so we're seeing some very graphic photos here of the decomposed bones. Remember, the body, the remains were found about 2 months after baby Annabelle died. This was when they were collected in July, and remember she died in May. Angela, what are you getting from this in terms of the prosecution? What are they trying to do?
So what I think the prosecution is trying to do here is to create some questions in the jury's mind. We hear from the pathologist that there were fractures. So what does that mean? You know, is it possible? Are they going to argue that perhaps the fractures were caused by Skylar? I think that's part of what they're getting at. Everyone wants to know here, is there any way to determine whether this baby was injured in some way, and do the bones reflect that?
That's a really good point. And you know, the other thing that we're looking at, and you see it right here, Terri, she's shaking. The defendant is shaking visibly throughout the entire course of this testimony. I'm wondering if the jury's seeing this.
Well, if I were the jury, I would certainly be paying attention to how Richardson is reacting to all of this. And I would say that she's very nervous and she looks visibly upset. And if you compare her reaction to someone like Casey Anthony, who was cold, cool, and calculated, I think she's portraying a more sympathetic defendant here.
Yes, if you couple it also with the interrogation tape from yesterday, you actually see a human being as a defendant. However, we can't forget what she is charged with an absolutely inhumane crime. Angela, aren't we getting a sense here that the baby was alive? And this is a point for the prosecution. I mean, she seems to be a strong witness. What's your take?
I do think she's a strong witness, Jesse. She's credible, she's poised, she's really giving us the facts, admitting that they couldn't really determine the cause of death, so they looked outside of the baby's body, looked at some of the statements by the defendant herself, and that caused her to believe that there's some there.
Terry, even if Annabelle was alive and now she's dead, does that necessarily mean the defendant did something illegal? Because couldn't you have a case where this was an accident, she didn't mean for the baby to die? Or is this, no matter what, if they can prove that that baby was alive, it was her fault, and this is either some degree of responsibility? It could be go down the line between murder, manslaughter, maybe reckless homicide, something lower. So I'm curious, what do you think?
I think you hit it on the head, and that's exactly what the defense is going to have to argue, that even if the baby was alive when she was born, she quickly thereafter died on her own, and it wasn't the cause of the defendant. And it's interesting here because it's probably hard to sit through this testimony. It is very, very powerful, but what the defense needs to do is to have an expert who can contradict what this, and I agree with Angela, this is an excellent expert. She's cool and calm, and she's admitting to what she doesn't know. So the defense needs an expert who can say that those burned bones aren't burned bones, that that's decay, that darkened bone is decay, and that these fractures were post the death of the child.
Well, first thing we're going to see is how they're going to cross-examine her. You know, that they were just waiting to do that. And then we'll probably see later on when they're presented the case what kind of experts they're going to call. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll jump live.